Amazing. Greetings, everyone. My name is Ayanda Madlala, and Senior Communications Specialist. We would like to officially open the session. Our title of the webinar is called Measuring, Improving, and Reporting Sustainability Literacy. And we have with us Sulitest. And our speaker for the day is Professor Aurélien Decamp, who is the co-founder of Sulitest. And Prof. Aurélien, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ayanda. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aurélien Decamp. I'm the co-founder of Sulitest, the Sulitest initiative, who is partnering with AABS. So thank you very much for inviting us for this webinar first. Let me briefly tell you a few words about myself and then dive into the webinar. So I'm an academics by background. I've been a professor in higher education for about 15 years and one of the advocates for sustainability. I always try to leverage my academic position to advocate for integrating sustainability into higher education, into pedagogy, research, partnering with civil society, NGO, businesses, in order to mainstream sustainability so that everyone who is currently taking decision or will take decision in the future can do so linking with the sustainability challenges. So this is why I co-founded Sulitest and became a social entrepreneur with this initiative. So this is pretty much about me. What is interesting is to talk, I think, today about sustainability literacy. Of course, what we do at Sulitest, because we are one piece of this puzzle, we are one tool in the toolbox, but more importantly, how do we measure, improve, and report about sustainability literacy in the context of higher education and specifically in the context of business schools? So let me share my screen. Here. Can you just confirm that you see my screen in full screen, please?
Yes, we do.
All right, thank you very much. So yeah, the goal of this webinar is really to explore how do we measure, improve, and report about sustainability literacy, because we are quite convinced that it's a critical topic and it's a huge responsibility from higher education to equip and enables students and graduates to take informed decision toward a sustainable future and to shift higher education by integrating more sustainability into the curriculum, into the teaching, and into every aspect of the learning pathways of students. So this is why I want to talk to you about today. But first, let me briefly tell you about Sulitest, about what we do at Sulitest and where do we come from, because this is where I'm talking from today. So our story at Sulitest starts about 10 years ago. And it's been 10 years that we have been really active in the context of higher education and in the context of international institutions with especially the UN in Higher Education Sustainability Initiative to really be active, move the needles, and convinced that we should do more about sustainability and we should accelerate this transition towards sustainability. So at Sulitest, how do we participate in this global effort? We are providing online tools to measure and improve sustainability literacy. We have an awareness test. The goal is really to raise awareness, a formative test to learn about sustainability used by about 800 institutions and have been taken by 300,000 people since 2016. And our flagship tool today is TASK, the assessment of sustainability knowledge, a standardized assessment used by about 60 institutions and taken since 2023 when we launched it by 20,000 people. Everything that we do, and this is the case today with one of our partner, AABS. Thank you again for inviting us to this webinar. Is to try to leverage collaboration with different stakeholders, multiple stakeholders, in order to accelerate the transition towards sustainability. So from students' organizations to accreditors, rankings, academic institutions, academic associations. We have been collaborating with multiple stakeholders to accelerate the movement and also to make sure that we design tools that are relevant for practitioners that will be actually used and create impact in the context of higher education. Why do we do that? We do that because we are convinced that we need to mainstream sustainability literacy. At the end of the day, we know that sustainability literacy is a mix of knowledge, skills, and mindset that will allow you to be better prepared for action. So, of course, the goal is to act towards sustainability. And we are quite convinced that to be able to act, you should know, you should have the skills to know how to use what you know and the mindset to act towards sustainability. So this is what we want to achieve and to make sure that it goes mainstream, meaning that it's not only about activists or experts about sustainability, but every citizen, regardless of the job that you do, the degree that you hold, should have this basic sustainability literacy in order to be able to build a sustainable future. So this is the goal. This is really our mission and what we want to achieve, mainstreaming sustainability literacy. We do that and we see that there is a movement. If we compare to 10 years ago when we launched our initiative, there is a big movement to mainstream sustainability into higher education. A lot of things are happening at the moment. If we look at international surveys such as the SOS International Survey, a majority of students want to learn more. They want to be better trained towards sustainability. Sustainability is really becoming a hot topic in higher educations. If we look at quality assurance, rankings, accreditations bodies, and other actors looking at quality and performance in higher education are developing sustainability requirements. This is the case for EQUIS with its Chapter 9, for example, for business school, but also for the case of AACSB with the Societal Impact Standard launched in 2020, and rankings like Times Higher Education Impact Ranking, QS Sustainability Rankings, positive impact ratings for business schools, and so on and so forth. So there is this movement integrating more and more sustainability into quality assurance. And of course, at the level of the institutions, the business schools, the university, everyone is currently integrating more and more sustainability into the curriculum and into the teaching. So everything, all of this is great, of course, but we are quite convinced that we miss so far an important piece, and this piece is assessment. How do we assess the impact of what we do, that of everything that is currently happening in higher education, to make sure that it actually has an impact on the students and the learner, to make sure that they are able to act for sustainability. And this brings the conversation about competencies, about sustainability competencies, and about how to assess and measure sustainability competencies. Of course, at Sulitest, we are contributing to this movement, but we are not the only one. This is a global movement to be able to assess sustainability competencies within higher education institution. What do we want to assess? I'm sure you're all familiar with the famous quotes, you can pilot what you can measure or what you can't assess. So of course, assessing is a way to pilot, to monitor, to deploy strategy. and also to demonstrate impact and to track progress. So this is why we are really convinced that it's sometimes not the first thing you talk about or you think when you think about sustainability, but it's a key part of the puzzle. It's a key piece of the puzzle. So looking at sustainability competencies, if we look at the higher education landscape, things are really moving forward, and we start to have stabilized frameworks of sustainability competencies. Looking at higher education, we have, roughly speaking, three big types of sustainability competencies today. We have key sustainability competencies, which are more at the macro and systemic level. For example, I took the four main domains of the European framework, the Green Comp, the Green Competencies for Sustainable Future, embodying sustainability values, embracing complexity, envisioning sustainable future, acting for sustainability. So Green Comp are not the only one. You start to have a stabilized framework in terms of key sustainability competencies. This is, for us, the entry door, and those are key competencies that you should have to address sustainability. So at the international level, I'm sure you're familiar with the UNESCO education learning goal for the Sustainable Development Goals. At the European level, we have the Green Com framework, and you have all the OECD has also its own framework. And in France, for example, where we are based with Sulitest, we have French framework that will translate these international frameworks into the French context. So of course, it needs to be translated into the context. It needs to be appropriate, and depending on where you are, in which country you are operating, and the context of your business school, you will need to put those big frameworks into context. But at the global level, there is a lot of convergence between these referentials, and we are able today to identify what are the key sustainability competencies that we should integrate into the training to make sure that we deliver graduates that are able to act on sustainability. And then we start to have the translation of these macro competencies, these systemic competencies, into specific sector or specific disciplines. In the context of business schools, of course, we find a lot of attempt and effort to translate those competencies for responsible management or responsible leadership, for example, responsible purchasing, sustainable finance. What does it mean for an HR director, for a financial director, to integrate those key sustainability competencies and embed them into their own discipline or their own job? So there are some effort like this. I'm just mentioning two frameworks here in the French context, but I'm sure you can find other point of reference in your own context to translate those key sustainability competencies into specific sector or specific discipline. Here it's for management and responsible manager in the French context. And then finally, you also find some specific competencies dealing with specific technical skills. How do you calculate a carbon footprint? How do you ensure your European environmental, social, and governance reporting? In the European context, we have the CSRD, which is a big regulation push. How do you conduct materiality analysis, life cycle analysis, and so on and so forth? So looking at the higher education sector and having been in this sector for about 15 years now, I can see that there are those three blocks of competencies. And of course, it's not one or the others. It's our ability to link those three blocks of competencies that will allow graduates to act on sustainability. it's important to have specific and technical skills to be able to calculate a carbon footprint, for example. But this is a technical skills. If you have the technical skills without the key competencies, without being able to articulate a vision, to know why you are calculate your carbon footprint and why it will be more and more important within your business, you miss one part of the puzzle. So it's not one or the other, it's our ability to integrate those three blocks of competencies that will enable students and graduates. And then the next question, of course, is how do we measure that? Because this is the point of our discussion. How do we assess those sustainability competencies? So if we take the same three blocks, with Sulitest and task, for example, we are more at the level of the key sustainability competencies, at the level of the sustainability literacy that anyone should have, regardless of your disciplines of your job. This is really the first step, the important steps, and this is why we are putting our tools in the aligned with the big frameworks, UNESCO, Green Comp, and so on and so forth. You also find other initiatives in the landscape, which are complementary to task, which is really for the assessing sustainability knowledge, sustainability mindset indicators, for example, more on the mindset, on the sustainability mindset, and the CARL assessment, which is more about competencies for specific audience, competencies for responsible leadership. When you go into translate that into program and discipline, this is a work in progress because this is more contextualized. Every schools will have in-house specific training and assessment. What is key here from what we have seen in different higher education institutions is to be able to link your in-house specific trainings and assessment to the big framework of sustainability competencies. So those frameworks should be used as anchors to anchor your specific programs, trainings, assessment, and to be able to say that you are contributing to this part of sustainability competencies. And then, of course, you will find a lot of different assessment for specific, specialized and technical skills in terms of carbon, for example, the carbon literacy projects is one important initiative that you can find in this context. So again, this is why I'm a little bit describing the big picture here and setting the scene in the context of higher education. It's not about using one or the other. It's about integrating those three blocks of competencies within what you do within your curriculum as a business schools. And for this, I'm taking the example of an integration into the assurance of learning process. This is an example that comes from one of our users, one of the business school who is using our tools and that we support for integrating sustainability. A good way of integrating those sustainability competencies into the curriculum is to embed those competencies into the assurance of learning process. So you probably recognize something that you do on a daily basis in the business school, at least to answer and to accreditation. How do we organize the assurance of learning process, and how do we embed sustainability competencies by design when we set our competency goals, our learning objectives, our set of learning objectives as a business school, to make sure that they are embedded into this process. So you have three steps here that have been taken by the school. One is the first one is the development cycle. You should, when you develop your competency goals, when you set your learning objectives, and you will, during this development cycle, you will be able to articulate your competency goals and to see if you take the big framework that I just mentioned before, where do you fit with your curriculum, to map your curriculum. At Sulitest, for example, we have tools to help you on that and to support on this with the what we call the task navigational charts and the alignment with the different competency frameworks to be able to map your curriculum and your learning objectives and to say, okay, this is the type of sustainability competencies that we address in our curriculum. Then once it's clear and mapped, there is the measurement cycle, which is quite important. Ability to collect the relevant data, to analyze the data, to integrate them into dashboards, to be data-driven in the decision that you are taking, and to be able to make some recommendation. There are specific competencies, specific areas that we are covering well in our curriculum, and we identify gaps that for which we will improve and that we will fill over time. So ability to be data-driven and to put in place a measurement cycle and then learn from it. Of course, this is closing the loop. How do we track progress? How do we continuously track progress in order to continuously improve? And how are we able to leverage the relevant data to demonstrate impact? So I really like this framework. This is a real framework from one of the business schools with whom we are working with in order to truly embed sustainability into the curriculum. If it's done by design in the set of competency goals and learning objectives, then you are able. Of course, you will not be able to do it in one day, but you are able to continuously improve and to close the loop into your curriculum. So having said that, really trying to draw the big picture at the level of the higher education sector, let me take a few minutes to explain to you what we are specifically doing at Sulitest, and especially with TASK, the assessment of sustainability knowledge, which is our assessment tools. So as I said previously, we are only one piece of the puzzle. We are one tool in the toolbox, but we are quite convinced, and this is what we do on a daily basis, that we manage to ease this process, to make it easier, faster for business school by collecting the relevant data, informing the process, providing some recommendation, and being able to close the loop, as I just mentioned. So what is TASK? TASK is a psychometric assessment, a psychometric tool to monitor and certify the sustainability knowledge of your students. It's designed for being used with all students across programs in order to inform the curriculum revision and the assurance of learning process. It's an online tool, 80 minutes, 112 questions. Of course, we will share all the documentation so you can learn more about the assessment after this webinar, designed to assess the knowledge of the students at the beginning, during, and at the end of their studies in order to be able to track progress and to make sure you are graduating sustainability literate future decision makers, but also to leverage robust, reliable, and comparable data to pilot and monitor your strategy in terms of education for sustainability, and to be able to demonstrate your impact to accreditors, rankings, future candidates, future students, international students, and so on and so forth. And for your students to be able to demonstrate their knowledge and understanding with a digital certificate that is issued with TASK. TASK is about sustainability as a common language. So we have a systemic approach of sustainability. We tap into Earth system, core planetary boundaries, climate, biodiversity, and so on and so forth. Social foundation of sustainability, ensuring human welfare, but also levels of opportunity. How can we act on sustainability to build a more sustainable future? So this is a common language that we should all speak because we are all affected by sustainability. And this is what TASK is about. Again, you will have the ability to see all the documentation to look at this domain of knowledge, which is conveying a systemic approach of sustainability. And then the idea is to provide relevant data. So this is the kind of dashboards that inform the strategy of the business schools in terms of subjects. What are the top subjects? What are the subjects that needs to improve in my curriculum? Detailed and granular data and recommendation for how to improve for individual learners, for students, but also for the schools and the university to inform the curriculum. Students are able to demonstrate and showcase their knowledge. So here, a few examples of digital certificate that are shared by students on social media, LinkedIn, and so on and so forth for employability. So students are able to demonstrate, but university are also able to demonstrate what they do with a number of stakeholders. I'm not entering into details here, but we develop these tools, as I mentioned, with multiple stakeholders, from students' union to academic institution networks and accreditations and ranking. The tools is supported by several quality assurance actors and used by more than 60 university and business schools so far. So let me just finish by few examples, of few testimonials coming from our users. University of Sussex Business School in the UK, for example. They start with the bachelor level and they will expand to the master level in the future. That's the plan. All bachelor students took task at the beginning of the bachelor in the first year, during the first year, really to have to collect data on where they are when they start. And then they will ask the bachelor students to take it at the end as a way to track progress and to inform the pedagogy. Another business school in France, EM Normandy, also using tasks across programs in order to make sure they are equipping their students to take informed decisions, to act on sustainability, and to inform the curriculum. They start with the master's level at this school. All master students took task in the first year, and it's also a way to help students when they take the assessment for the first time to choose the relevant options, the relevant electives, the relevant courses to learn more, and to roll out and to deploy within the school. So let me stop there. Of course, I could talk about it for hours. I'm quite passionate about what we are doing at Sulitest, again, with one clear goal, mainstreaming sustainability literacy. Let me now open the floor. We will share all the relevant documentation, but at this stage, probably we can already open the floor to you if you have some specific questions that we can take. I'm looking at the Q&A. I think we don't have specific questions for now.
No questions for now. Prof, I just want to ask, for a university that is restructuring their sustainability education initiatives, what would you recommend as the first steps and who should they get on board?
Yeah, I think thank you for this question. This is a real relevant questions because we see that in every business schools today, everyone is doing something about sustainability, but not necessarily, they don't necessarily know where to start and in which order. So let me first say that it's a continuous process. So it won't be from nothing to you are doing everything. This is why we think assessment is a good entry door because once you are able to measure, you are able to identify what you are already doing, and probably you are already doing a lot of things that you don't necessarily know in terms of sustainability, because knowing everything requires that you measure this. So if no one asks you to measure what you do about sustainability, probably you are not fully aware that this project exists in the student's experience, this course exists within the curriculum, this seminar exists in terms of sustainability. So the first step that I would take is really to map what we have in-house within the school, and to engage, I think the three important stakeholders would be faculty for curriculum teaching courses. So probably you have in your school or university faculty who is already doing things about sustainability, who's already interested. So identify the first mover within your faculty. Second stakeholders is the accreditation. There is probably in every business school a team for accreditation, a team for quality assurance. So doing this work that I was mentioning, of mapping the competency goal, mapping the learning goals to inform the curriculum, and students. The third stakeholders are really students. Usually they are the more actives. They are eager to do things and they are expecting that their school will do something about sustainability and will help them to grow and to be trained around sustainability. So yeah, to answer specifically to your question, first map what you do, what you already do, and where you are. Engage faculty, accreditation, and students to be sure you are quite exhaustive in terms of the mapping. And then from this, you are able to set the first step of your strategy. So once you have a good view of your current curriculum, the expectation from the students, set your competency goal framework and see where you can integrate sustainability. And this is where I think collecting relevant and reliable data helps to inform this process and to move to the next step, which is, okay, we started something, we know where are the courses in terms of sustainability, we know where are the students' projects. Let's move from this to step 2, which is putting more sustainability and track progress over time.
Thank you so much. And while we're on accreditation, what changes in accreditation ranking do you expect or hope to see in the coming years?
So I think we are also in an interesting moment if we look at accreditations and ranking. So we saw, as I mentioned earlier, early steps. EFMD launched his Chapter 9 years ago in 2016, if I'm not wrong. AACSB launched the Societal Impact Standard in 2020. So if we take accreditations first, we can see that standard accreditation, which are not sustainability accreditations, but standard accreditation, are integrated sustainability requirements. And what is interesting, I think, is we are moving more and more from the means to the outcomes. So it's good to put more courses. It's good to mention that sustainability in your strategy and to be able to elaborate how sustainability is integrated into your strategy. But beyond those activities, beyond those means that you can put in place, we are moving more and more into, are you able to document and demonstrate the outcome of this strategy? And to AACSB, for example, says, choose your assessment. There are plenty of different ways of assessing, but assess the outcome of what you do. So there are plenty of options, but business schools are more and more asked to demonstrate the outcome of their strategy, which is, in my opinion, a very good thing, because it starts to be concrete and tangible when you have to measure and assess the impact of what you do. And the second part of these questions is sustainability natives rankings, ratings, accreditations, and so on. So, for example, positive impact ratings for business school is gaining a lot of reach. What is really interesting in what they do is that they really capture the students' perspective and how the students are seeing the way the school is embracing positive impact, sustainability, and so on and so on and so forth. But also Times Higher Education Impact Rankings, QS Sustainability Rankings. I think there's still room for improvement for sure, but they are starting to ask concrete data on outcomes to answer to those rankings. So this is a good trend to integrate sustainability into quality assurance, and I'm deeply convinced that it's a big lever for more sustainability into higher education. At the end of the day, measuring performance, assessing quality assurance will be a powerful driver to shift the behavior of higher education institutions and business schools.
Agreed. Sustainability is the way to go. Thank you so much. If there's no further questions, I think we can close the webinar. However, I just wanted to also mention that the session, this presentation rather, will also be accessible to participants and our members. So we'll be sharing it afterwards. But thank you so much for the session today. Thank you so much to Sulitest and to you, Professor Orlandi Camps, and everyone who has joined us today. I hope everybody has gained so much. It was quite an insightful presentation, and we look forward to many more.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.
Okay, bye-bye.